with them.
Okay, it's 5:02 and I'm gonna get started pretty soon because there are a lot of steps to this menu and I want us to get as close to finished in an hour as possible. Hey Redmond! Hi Rory! So good to see you guys. You guys chose a great menu to join today. Hi Taryn! Hey Ella! Hi! Maddie, welcome back! Hi, Maddie. Hey, Joyce.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. We have lots of people today. This is so fun.
Oh, wait, we're unmuted?
You can be unmuted. It's okay. Hi, Edie. Yeah.
Lena, I might need suggestions. It's Leilani from you.
Hi.
I ordered, instead of 4 peppers, I ordered 4 pounds of peppers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I have a lot of peppers to use.
Yeah, let's talk about that later, for sure. What kind of peppers are they?
I think they're the Thai chili peppers that you requested.
These are so my Thai chili peppers are teeny.
Oh, these are pretty big.
Oh.
I don't know what they are. They look the same.
Can you show me? Wait, can you show me some more?
They're all about the same size. Look.
Okay, those might be Jimmy Nardello peppers, in which case it'll be really easy for you to use up 4 pounds of those. If they're
actually ended up being like at 1.5 pounds. I think I put 4 into the box and then
okay.
Gave me a half pound.
Let's have you taste one. I have some of those peppers too. Those you can blister, like saute in a saute pan and blister. But those peppers are sweet. If those are like Thai chili peppers that are super spicy, we'll have to think of another something to do with them.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Hi Grace. Hi Shmoo.
Upstairs, guys, okay?
Good to see you. Hello, Louisa and Lily. All right, it's 5:04. Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started because we have, yes? Oh, we have a question. Okay, so you have a question about the tofu. The tofu, if anybody's using tofu, we'll get to that in a little bit, but you're going to be slicing it into blocks. So take your block of tofu and then you'll divide it into 4 pieces, like as flat as possible. So like slabs, but we'll get to that later. I'll talk about tofu in a second. The first thing we're gonna do, there's a lot of steps to this menu, so let me just walk you through. Mayadi, you have a question?
What do we do if we're doing both?
Tofu and chicken?
Yes.
That's fine, you can do both. I'll leave it up to you whether you wanna marinate them in the same dish. If you're serving tofu to somebody who doesn't mind having it marinate with chicken, then you can marinate it in the same dish. Otherwise, just put them into 2 separate dishes.
Should we do the same measurements and everything, or?
How much chicken do you have?
How much chicken do we have?
We have 5 pieces.
5 pieces.
Okay, I would maybe increase your marinade amount just a little bit.
Okay.
This marinade is very forgiving. So how about you and I will put a little bit more into our marinade. And I'll walk you through that. So the first thing we're going to do, everybody, we're going to make our marinade because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to marinate our chicken or our tofu. And we're just going to let it sit for about 15 minutes while we prep the other ingredients, and then it'll cook pretty quickly in the oven. So the first place we're going to go is to our food processor. So in your food processor or your blender, grab your garlic. So 4 cloves of garlic. Mayadi, maybe you and I put in 6. And a piece of ginger, about 1 inch wide or 1 inch thick. That's already been peeled. So go ahead and throw that into your blender, or your food processor right now. So 4 cloves of garlic. Mayadi, you and I will do 6. Okay. And let's see. And then put in your ginger. Your ginger should be peeled already.
Is this enough?
Yeah. Wait, is that both ginger?
Yeah.
That's a lot of ginger. I would maybe use 1.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to slice up my ginger, but you don't have to. I'm just going to slice mine up just to make sure it all gets kind of chopped up in my food processor. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what to do with this lemongrass. So does everybody have lemongrass with them? Let me show you what to do with this lemongrass. So for those of you who've never used lemongrass yet, this is quite a wonderful ingredient. I use it a lot in both Vietnamese and Thai cooking, but it's hard to eat. It's a very woody, stocky ingredient. And what you do is you peel, I'm gonna peel some of the outside layers off. You can see here, there's like some outside layers of this lemongrass. I'm just gonna peel those off. Okay, and then I'm gonna have you smell it. I don't know if you can smell, you can actually smell it. Once you've peeled off a few layers, you can kind of smell what the lemongrass smells like. It smells kind of lemony. It's kind of fresh and lemony, and it adds a really nice flavor. We're not going to use the whole stalk. Very rarely have I seen recipes where you use the entire stalk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on my cutting board how I'm going to process this one stalk first, and then you can do it with the rest. So here I have my lemongrass stalk. Okay, I'm going to cut the end off first. You see this like really hard end right here. I'm cutting it about maybe a ½ inch from the end. I'm just going to cut that off. We don't want that. You're going to need a big, sharp, heavy knife, and you're going to use some force. Okay, so cut off the end piece there. And then I'm going to cut off the rest of the part of the lemongrass that I won't need. So we're actually only going to use this very end piece here today. So I'm going to cut off the rest of this. You see this long piece here? We're not going to use it. This goes in your compost bin. All we're going to be left with is this piece of lemongrass, the end part of the stalk, that's maybe about 2½ inches long. See that? I'm going to do the same with my other stalks of lemongrass. Mayadi, how many stalks of lemongrass do you have? You have 1? Okay, that's fine. Just make do with what you have. Can you grow these? Okay, that's fine. Just use what you have. So again, I'm cutting off the end, the very tip of the end, and then I'm only going to use the last like 2½, 3 inches. This is the most tender part here, and that's the only part that's kind of edible. And then I have 3 lemongrass stalks, so I'm just going to do the same. Cut the end off, cut the long side off. So I should be left with 3. Well, you should be left with 1 or 2 stalks of lemongrass. I'm making a bigger portion of my marinade. That's why I have 3. And then take your lemongrass and keep peeling some of the outside layers off. You see here, I have some of this outside layers off. I'm just going to keep kind of taking it off because you only want to use the tender part. Okay. Just throw the rest of what you don't need into your compost or your garbage bowl. So again, I'm just going to take off the ends, the layer I don't need. So it's going to get kind of skinny. There we go. So I have 3. You're only going to use 1. And then take your grater. I'm going to take my microplane here, and I'm just going to grate it straight into my food processor. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take one end of it. I'm just going to grate it in, just like that. You're going to get like fine little lemongrass shavings out of here. See? So put this straight into your food processor or your blender with the ginger and the garlic. Go ahead and grate your lemongrass straight into the food processor. If you have any questions, just shout out. And again, we're just using that tender part of the lemongrass. You can really kind of smell the lemongrass now. Lemongrass is kind of woody and stocky. So that's why I'm grating it first before I even blend it. But it'll add great flavor to your marinade. So once you're done grating, keep grating your lemongrass. Be careful with your fingers that you don't accidentally grate your fingers into it. Okay.
Wait, Lynna?
Yeah?
Do you also just put the garlic and the ginger right in with it too?
Yes.
Do you need to chop up the ginger?
You can if you want. You don't have to. It depends on how powerful your blender or your food processor is. If you want, you can just slice it up, but you don't have to. All right. So go ahead and grate your lemongrass in. And then the next thing you're going to add is you're going to add 2 tablespoons of fish sauce. I'll leave it up to you whether you want to measure or not. Mayadi, you and I are going to use 3. Okay, but everyone else use 2 tablespoons of fish sauce. And after your fish sauce goes in, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. I know some of you might be allergic to fish, in which case you just use soy sauce. You can just use 3 tablespoons total of soy sauce. If you're allergic to fish sauce, if you don't have fish sauce, just use 3 tablespoons total of soy sauce. But if you have fish sauce, we're going to use 2 tablespoons of fish sauce and 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. Okay. So I'm just going to eyeball and put in 1, 2, 3 tablespoons of fish sauce. It smells really funky. I know it smells kind of crazy, but I promise you it tastes really good. Once it's cooked into anything, it adds the saltiness, it adds umami, and it's really good for you. Okay, so add your soy sauce and your fish sauce. And the next thing you're going to add is 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. Yes, Mayadi?
How much soy sauce do I put in?
Do you have fish sauce?
Yes.
Okay, so just put in like 1.5 tablespoons of soy sauce.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then everyone else add your teaspoon of sesame oil. Okay. So a teaspoon of sesame oil. Mayadi used maybe 1.5 teaspoons of sesame oil. And the last ingredient you're going to add is brown sugar. Add 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. Mayadi, you and I are going to add 4 tablespoons. So 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. And this will sweeten up your marinade, because Vietnamese dishes are both salty and sweet and a little spicy. This all goes together really well. So go ahead and just put your lid onto your food processor or your blender and just blend it up. And just make sure everything gets all mixed together.
Lynna?
Yeah?
How much brown sugar again?
3 tablespoons.
Thank you.
Huh? All right. So the next thing we're going to grab is your chicken, along with a shallow dish. So I'm using a glass pie plate. If you don't have a pie plate or a shallow dish, that's fine. I'm just going to use this so that the tofu and the chicken are pretty flat. So it's handy to have a shallow dish to marinate it in. So I'm just using a pie dish like this, but you can use whatever you have to be able to cover the marinade. 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, yes. So just remember, keep in mind, you're about to touch chicken. So make sure we're gonna wash our hands after we touch our chicken. So go ahead and put your chicken into the glass pie dish or your marinade bowl.
Are there still supposed to be like chunks inside our marinade?
There can be some chunks. I actually didn't look at mine either, but mine has some chunks in it, but it should be mostly blended up. It's okay if there's some chunks. if there are a lot of chunks, you can blend it a little bit more. But it shouldn't.
Lynna. Should I put the tofu in this too or no?
Yes, you can. If the people you're feeding do not mind the tofu and the chicken touching, you can put it into the same dish.
How big should the tofu chunks be?
The tofu chunk should be slabs. So I recommend cutting your big chunk of tofu into 4 flat slabs.
Oh, Eeks, I made a mistake. I sliced my chicken.
That's okay. You'll just have to, it's totally fine. You don't have to cut it later. All right. Okay. So make sure your chicken is not touching your cutting board, because we're going to be using this cutting board to cut more raw vegetables later. So I'm just leaving my chicken on the counter where it can't touch my cutting board. I don't want to contaminate it. So I have my big thing of chicken here. This dish is probably not quite big enough, but we'll make do. And then go ahead and take your marinade and pour it over your protein, either your chicken or your tofu. So, no, it's okay. Okay, so I'm going to just very carefully pour this marinade over the chicken. And I'm going to use tongs with my other hand and kind of spread it around a little bit.
Lynna? Is there peanut butter in there?
No peanut butter yet. We're going to make a separate peanut butter sauce.
How about garlic?
Yeah, the garlic.
Garlic and ginger are in here, yes. I used to serve about 4 people, I recommend about maybe 6 pieces of boneless, skinless chicken thigh.
Lynna?
Yeah?
How do I cut the tofu again?
Into slabs. Okay. So I would cut it into like 4 flat slabs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So make sure your marinade is all out of your, don't let the marinade, don't let your blender or your food processor touch your chicken, okay? But just kind of drip out whatever is in here over your chicken. And then just kind of coat it around. Make sure every piece of chicken is immersed in some of the marinade or is touching some of the marinade. So I'm just turning it around. You can see here, I'm just kind of flipping and folding and making sure every part gets coated. Just like that. Okay. Same with your tofu if you're using tofu.
Lynna?
Yes?
Do we have to preheat the oven?
No, not yet. I'll tell you when.
Thank you.
Yep, we're gonna save some energy and start the oven preheating the oven a little bit later when we really need it. I'll make sure you have enough time. Okay, so the marinade is all now over your chicken or your protein, and you're gonna put your food processor back on, or your blender back onto your food processor, because we're gonna use this food processor again in just a couple minutes. Okay? So
hey,
again,
Lynna? Sorry, we were a little behind. Does the sugar go in the marinade?
Yes, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna set aside my chicken right here. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, good. So next, we're gonna make our peanut sauce.
Lynna, sorry again. We're running a little behind.
That's okay.
Which ingredients go in the marinade?
So there's 4 cloves of garlic, and then like a piece of ginger, about 1 inch big. Okay. 1 inch piece of ginger, and then 2 tablespoons of fish sauce. How many people are you guys cooking for today? Tracy?
We're just trying to figure out under the 4 marinade and sauces stuff, which of that is for the marinade and which is for the sauces.
Yeah, okay.
All together.
So you're making it for 12 people, so you're tripling the recipe?
Yes, we're tripling
David,
it.
are you tripling it? Okay, so use 6 tablespoons of fish sauce, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Okay, Clara's gonna type in she's gonna put it in the chat. For tripling the recipe, you put in 6 tablespoons of fish sauce, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 3 teaspoons of sesame oil. I'd say 8 tablespoons of brown sugar.
Okay, so that's all for the marinade or for the sauce?
Yes, for the marinade.
Okay, thank you.
And then you're going to use about 12 cloves of garlic and about like 2 inches of ginger.
Great, thank you.
Okay, everybody else, ignore those instructions. That's just for tripling the recipe. Okay, okay. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to use this food processor again, and we're going to make our peanut sauce. So if anybody else is doubling or tripling the recipe, let me know. Yes?
Should we wash it out?
No, don't wash it out. No need. We are being very efficient cooks. We are not going to have to wash anything unnecessarily. You are doubling? Okay, cool, Tegan. So if you're making the peanut sauce, go ahead. Or, you know, if some of you might be using almond butter or sunflower butter, but I'm just going to call it peanut sauce for now. Okay, so we're going to put into our food processor again a piece of ginger. Okay, so I'm putting in about 1 inch piece again. I'm going to slice mine up. Oops, I'm just going to slice up my ginger here. Sorry, I have my lid in the way here. So I'm just going to put in a piece of ginger again into the food processor. And then next, I'm going to juice some limes. So remember how I asked you to cut up your limes? Just to save us a little time? We're going to need about 6 tablespoons of lime juice. So I'm using what's called a citrus press here. Okay, you're doubling too. Okay, so if you're doubling, you're gonna need about maybe, I'd say about 10 tablespoons of lime juice. So grab a container or a bowl and go ahead and start squeezing your limes. So this will take a little bit of time. So anyone who's behind, you can catch up here. And maybe have somebody else start squeezing lime juice if you wanna save a little time, if you have more than one person in the kitchen. So I'm just gonna squeeze each of these limes. I have a citrus press, but you can use a juicer or a reamer. And I specified quite a few limes because every lime is different in the amount of juice it can produce. But for this peanut sauce, we're gonna, I'm actually gonna have you use lime juice for both the peanut sauce and later on for this dipping sauce we're gonna make. So I'm gonna have you juice a lot of limes right now.
Auntie Lynna, how much lime juice should we?
So if you're just using a single recipe, you're gonna need about 12 tablespoons of lime juice. But total.
Hey, Lynna. Oh. Lynna,
So I'm
I think
having everybody. Go ahead.
Oh, we're somewhat confused. We put 7 tablespoons of fish sauce in and 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. I don't know if those are the right proportions.
Oh, are you talking about the marinade?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in the marinade step. So what did you add?
7 tablespoons of fish sauce and 3 tablespoons of brown sugar.
Oh, Gerhard, are you tripling the recipe too?
I have no idea.
Okay. Are you on the marinade step still?
Yes.
Okay. So how many pieces of chicken do you have?
We have 8 pieces of chicken.
Okay. So you're going to only need 2 tablespoons, 2 or 3 tablespoons of fish sauce and 1 tablespoon of soy sauce.
Okay. So
everybody else keep juicing. Gerhard, talk to me. So your marinade should have 2 tablespoons of fish sauce, 1 tablespoon of...
We already tripled it, so.
Oh, that's okay. What have you put in?
We put 7 tablespoons of fish sauce and 3 tablespoons of brown sugar.
Okay. Okay.
And 1 garlic clove.
And one garlic clove.
Okay. Take out half and put that into a small bowl. We're going to use that for our dipping sauce. So it is not going to waste.
It's already in the chicken.
Oh, it's already in the chicken. Okay. Let's see. So put in some, did you put in your sesame oil yet?
Yes.
Okay. So put in a teaspoon of sesame oil. And how much brown sugar did you put in?
3 tablespoons.
3 tablespoons? Okay. Maybe put in a little bit more brown sugar. Do another 3 tablespoons just to balance out the sweetness and the saltiness.
All right. Perfect.
Sorry. I'm sorry, it was confusing.
No problem.
Right.
Okay,
No
everybody.
problem.
Okay, everybody keep juicing your limes. You're gonna need quite a bit of lime juice. I'm just having you juice it all at once because we're gonna be using lime juice later on as well. But also reserve a couple limes to serve at the table. And like I said, every lime is different. Some limes have a lot of juice, some are not as juicy. So I know Ella, are you using homegrown limes?
Yeah, some of grandma's.
Oh, lucky you. You probably only need like 3 limes. Her limes are so juicy, right?
Yeah.
Grandma's limes are the best. I miss them. How much? 1 cup. I'd say 1 cup is probably about right. Yeah, 1 cup of lime juice is plenty. Okay, so I'm still juicing limes. Some people ask me if it's okay to use lemon juice. And I think in Vietnamese and Thai cooking, lime is the traditional citrus that's usually added. But if you're in a pinch and you only have lemons, that's fine too. But limes and lemons do taste different. They're both very tart, but they do have a different flavor. All right, so I have just under a cup of lime juice. I'm gonna slice up a few more. And you are going to have some leftover dipping sauce, but you can have that as a leftover for later this week if you don't mind leftovers. Okay, how's everyone doing? Oh, and Gerhard, you put in your ginger. Did you put in your lemongrass, Gerhard?
Right there.
We don't have lemongrass.
Okay, that's okay. All right. Okay, so I have about a cup of lime juice myself. And I think we're good. Okay, so now let's make our peanut sauce. So I already asked you to add in your ginger, if you're using ginger. The next thing we're gonna add in is, okay, the next thing we're gonna add is fish, so 2 tablespoons of fish sauce. Clara's gonna put it into the chat. 2 tablespoons of fish sauce goes into your food processor. This is the brand I like to use. This is called, I'll show you. Oh, Clara. Okay, this is the brand, this is Red Boat fish sauce. And it's used in a lot of cooking by chefs. Some chefs actually put it into their salad dressings. Some people like to make their eggs with with fish sauce instead of salt, again, it adds that like really funky umami flavor, and it makes it really good. But it's also really good for you too, because it's made of, I know this sounds crazy, but it's made of fermented fish. But it's a really old, well-known, widely used ingredient in Southeast Asian cooking. And some people put it into, you know, they put it into like their dipping sauces and pho. Yeah, a lot of times if you like to have Vietnamese pho, fish sauce is an ingredient in that too. Okay, so 2 tablespoons of fish sauce. Go ahead and put your lime juice in. So 6 tablespoons of lime juice. So if you're using, yeah, so about 6 tablespoons. You're not going to use all the lime juice. Okay, this is not all the lime juice. You're going to use lime juice in your dipping sauce too. So I'm putting in 6 tablespoons. I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay. What should, okay. And then I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. 1, 2. 2 teaspoons of sesame oil. 1, 2. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Yes. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm not measuring. I'm trying to get into the habit, I'm trying to help you get into the habit of kind of roughly figuring out how much is a teaspoon and how much is a tablespoon. So a tablespoon looks like this, and a teaspoon looks like this. These sauces and marinades are very forgiving. You can taste them and add more ingredients as needed, but try to learn to kind of eyeball a little bit too, so you can start to be able to cook without having to measure everything. It can save you a lot of time. And then the last thing we're going to add is our nut butter. So if you're using peanut butter or almond butter, I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of this peanut butter. So I have, you can use any kind of peanut butter if it's crunchy or creamy. If it's salted or unsalted, it's fine. Yeah, what, David? I'm not going to repeat that, David. So I'm putting in 4 tablespoons of peanut butter. This happens to be our favorite kind of peanut butter. I'm not a huge fan of peanut butter, to be honest, but I live in a household of people. David loves peanut butter, so I use this brand. It's called it's a Santa Cruz, and I think it's like super roasty and dark. I really like it. So if I am going to cook with it. What? Shelma May, did you say something?
I love peanut butter too.
Cool. The peanut butter is so good for you. So I'm using 4 tablespoons of peanut butter into my food processor or your blender. Okay, there. All right. You can go ahead and blend it. If you have anyone in your family that's allergic to peanuts, make sure that your peanut butter spoon and your peanut butter fingers don't touch anything that has that will be touching other food, because you don't want anyone to have any allergic reaction. So in our family, Dee Dee's allergic to peanut butter, so I'm very careful to make sure I don't touch other things that might contaminate it. Okay, so just to review, for your peanut sauce in your food processor or blender, there should be 2 tablespoons of fish sauce, 6 tablespoons of lime juice, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 piece of ginger that's been peeled and sliced, 4 tablespoons of peanut butter, and 2 teaspoons of sesame oil. And go ahead and blend it. Okay, I'll answer any questions anybody has. Any questions? Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take one of my tasting spoons and I'm going to taste the peanut sauce. And what I'm tasting for is, it's going to be pretty salty and pungent. Yow. I think it could use a little bit more peanut butter. Corbin, what's yours like? Is yours super sour? Yeah? Okay. So if it's a little bit too sour, you can add a little bit of brown sugar to it. If it's too salty, add a little bit of brown sugar to it. You can also add more peanut butter to it, which is what I'm going to do. That'll kind of mellow it out. Not yet. We'll turn on the oven right after this. Okay, so I'm just going to put in another tablespoon of peanut butter and then adjust, you know, you can adjust the sweetness. If it's, I know we didn't initially add in brown sugar, but if it's too salty or too tart, the brown sugar, adding a little bit of brown sugar will also mellow it out a little bit too. So I'll add a little bit of brown sugar to it. And it's all, a lot of cooking is all about tasting along the way and figuring out how to balance it. Especially Asian food. Okay. Taste again. And keep in mind, you're going to be serving this with some raw vegetables and noodles. So I know it'll taste really strong right now, but it'll balance out with all the other sauces and flavors that you'll be using. What do you think, Vicky? What does it need?
No, I agree with you. Ours tastes pretty strong. I added the peanut butter too.
Yeah.
But I'm debating the brown sugar, or if I should just wait.
Yeah. Your dipping sauce and your the chicken will be a little sweet.
Okay. So I'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna it's gonna be pretty salty, but that's okay. I'm gonna pour my I'm gonna pour my peanut sauce into a bowl like this. And this is a bowl that we'll be bringing to the table and serving. So alongside our noodles. So I'm just gonna pour. Yeah, I'm gonna use a spatula. I'm sorry I didn't ask you to get a spatula, but my executive producer will rescue me and grab me a spatula. Thank you. All right. Nice. Good. So I think these steps were like the hardest steps of this recipe. I think you guys are doing great if you've caught up to me at this point. Ask me any questions. Be careful with the food processor blade if you're using a food processor. David's had a couple mishaps with our food processor blade in the past. Okay, I'm just scraping out the bottom of my food processor. Cool. Any questions? If you're tripling the recipe, Olivia, Martin, and David, and Lisa, and Gracie, you don't need to triple this recipe necessarily because you will have leftover peanut sauce. Who am I? Let's see. Olivia, Gracie, is that you? Or is that Olivia? I can't tell.
It's Gracie.
Gracie. So, yeah, you don't need to triple the peanut sauce recipe. I think doubling it maybe would be fine.
Sorry?
I don't think you need to triple this peanut sauce recipe.
Okay, thank you.
Because it makes plenty of sauce.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if you are done with the food processor, so if you want it out of the way, go ahead and put it into your sink. You are done with that component of this recipe. And go ahead and clean up your workspace because we're going to be preheating your oven in a second. I'm just gonna put away all the ingredients we don't need anymore. I don't need the peanut butter, your peanut sauce. I'm setting aside to serve with our dish later. Okay. All right, so everybody go ahead and preheat your ovens to broil. Put your oven to broil. Make sure your rack is in the top third of your oven. So make sure there's a rack in the top third of your oven because you're going to be broiling chicken. The traditional way to prepare this chicken is you would grill it. But since it's hard to take you all out to our grill, I'm going to have us just broil it at home inside. So we're going to put your oven rack in the top third of the oven and turn your oven up to broil. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to have you turn on your stove. If you have your pot of water on the stove, go ahead and turn the heat up so it starts to boil. I have a pot here that's about maybe 2/3 full of water. This is just to heat up water for our rice noodles. All right, so make sure your oven is on broil and your water is heating on the stove. You want to set your water to start boiling. Deborah, you have a question about your rice noodles? Raina?
Yeah. How big should the pot be?
I'm using a pot that's about, not too big, because the rice noodles are going to shrink as soon as you put them in the water. So I have a pot that's like this.
All right. Thank you.
Doesn't have to be a super huge pot.
Lynna?
Yeah.
If we have tofu, how should we cook it?
Oh, so same thing. You're going to put it onto your sheet tray.
Okay, got it.
Did you already cut it, Zoe?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's in the marinade. So, yeah.
Should we also broil the oven too?
Turn the oven up to broil.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody turn your oven on to broil. And we're going to have you place your chicken thigh onto your sheet tray or your tofu onto your sheet tray. So I'll do it here. So I have my plate of chicken here that's been marinating. I'm gonna carefully just take it out of the marinade and just put it in a single layer on my parchment paper lined sheet tray. Take it out of the marinade, and you don't need to pour the marinade over the chicken. You don't want it to be too wet. Just like that. Just in a single layer. And you do this with your tofu too. I tend to cook, I know I have a lot more chicken than you probably. I tend to cook for like 2 or 3 nights in a row or 2 or 3 meals because we're all eating at home these days, and I want to be able to pack lunches or serve lunches at home. So I'm cooking a lot more. Okay. So just a single layer on your sheet tray. For those of you who are tripling the recipe, you may need 2 sheet trays. And same with your tofu. Make sure it's in a single layer. Okay. Done. So this marinade plate or dish is going into the sink. We don't need this anymore.
Lynna?
Yeah?
For the tofu, should we put the
sauce on top?
Yes, the tofu should also have been marinating with the chicken or in that marinade, yes.
I mean, should you pour it over?
Oh, no, I wouldn't. I don't want it to be too wet. I don't want you to steam the chicken. I want you to be able to kind of broil it. So same with chicken and same with the tofu. If you're using the marinade, make sure that you're kind of letting the marinade stay in the marinade bowl. You don't want to put it onto the sheet tray. You see here, you just want the marinade clinging to the chicken. You don't want it to be too wet. Right? Any other questions?
Should the noodles be thick or thin?
It's up to you, whether you want it to be thick or thin. I'm using pretty thin noodles. It depends on what you bought. All right. So let's let this chicken let's let the oven kind of heat up a little bit. We're gonna make one last sauce, but we don't need a food processor for this. All we need is a bowl. Ready? Okay. So the next thing we're gonna make is a dipping sauce. And the dipping sauce just consists of some of the same ingredients we used earlier. So Clara's gonna put the dipping sauce ingredients into the chat. If you're tripling your recipe, you probably only need to double this recipe. So this is I'm just gonna name the ingredients for one serving, one recipe for this dipping sauce. So you're gonna need fish sauce again, 3 tablespoons of fish sauce. Okay, and I'm just using a small bowl like this. Okay, I'm gonna put in 3 tablespoons of fish sauce. And once again, I'm eyeballing it, but you can use a measuring spoon if you want. 3 tablespoons, 1, 2, 3. 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. So we're making our dipping sauce now. 3 tablespoons of fish sauce so far. 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. All right. Next, we're gonna put in some lime juice.
How much brown sugar?
3 tablespoons. So for the lime juice, I'm just gonna start with maybe putting in 4 tablespoons right now. Okay, so I'm gonna just put in 4 tablespoons of lime juice to start, and then we'll taste it and we'll add more as needed. So I'll repeat, we're making our dipping sauce, and I just put in 3 tablespoons of fish sauce, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. I'm gonna start with about 4 tablespoons of lime juice. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm gonna take my spoon. I'm just gonna mix it together so it kind of melts in. The sugar can start to dissolve. Right? And then, for those of you who love garlic, I'm taking my grater. I'm gonna grate in 1 clove of garlic. You can use soy sauce if you don't want to use fish sauce. But I think fish sauce is... Oh, you ran out of fish sauce? Oh, then just use soy sauce. And then grate in some some garlic. So I have my garlic here. I'm just grating it in with my microplane. So 1 garlic clove, I'm just grating it in so it gets really fine. I really want to commend all of you for bearing with me with this recipe. I know it's, again, when have we not been ambitious, but this is particularly ambitious, I know, because we're probably using some ingredients that might not be super familiar to everybody. Not something you cook with every day, like fish sauce and lemongrass. But yeah, grate in your garlic. And if you like spicy, or if anybody in your family likes spicy, this is where the Thai chilies come in. Okay, so I'm just going to slice up, getting all of the garlic out of my microplane. Okay, and I have one Thai chili. My Thai chilies are really tiny. I'm just gonna slice one up and add it to my sauce to give it a little bit of heat. It also adds color too. If you don't want your Thai chili too spicy, all the spice in every chili comes from the seeds. So I'll show you here. If you don't want it too spicy, but you still want a little spice and you want some color, I'm gonna cut my chili, my Thai chili. So I'm gonna split it down the middle in half like this, like long ways. See? I have all these seeds down inside. I'm just gonna scoop out these seeds because this is where all the spice is. When you eat something spicy, like in a chili pepper or like a serrano pepper or jalapeno, all the spice is coming from the seeds. So I'm just gonna take out some of the seeds in the second one. And again, this is optional. This is only if you don't mind some spice. I'm just gonna slice it up now and add it to my dipping sauce. Okay. Once again, this is optional. Thai chilies are pretty spicy. So I'm just gonna put in a little bit. It adds color and it's really pretty. Here, so here's my dipping sauce. And just take a spoon and stir it so that the brown sugar at the bottom of the bowl dissolves and gets to mix in. Any
Lynna?
questions? Yeah.
The chicken's not in yet, right?
Not yet. We're about to put it in.
Okay, thank you.
We're just waiting for your ovens to preheat. But once your dipping sauce is done, we're going to go ahead and put our chicken in. Okay. How's everyone doing? My hot water is hot, so I'm going to turn my heat down. If your water is boiling, go ahead and turn it to low. And we're going to add the chicken to the oven now. So if your oven has preheated to broil, if your oven is on broil, go ahead and put your chicken or your tofu into the oven right now. Good call, Corbin. How does your sauce taste? Again, it should be sharp and pungent.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty spicy too.
Yeah, okay. Just warn people at the table.
Lynna, you said the top third part of the oven? Okay.
Yep, so make sure your oven rack is in the top third of the oven, that your oven is on broil. And I'm gonna put my chicken in now. Your chicken is going to broil for about 3 or 4 minutes, or your tofu, 3 or 4 minutes per side. So I'm gonna set a timer for I'll set a timer for 4 minutes.
Auntie Lynna?
Yes?
We're doing chicken breast, so how long should we do each side?
How thick is your chicken breast?
Like about an inch and a half.
Okay, you'll probably need to put yours in for about maybe, let's do 6 minutes per side.
Thank you.
And if mine is sliced, I should probably just do 2 minutes each side, or?
Yeah, or just take a look, maybe 3 minutes.
Okay.
Just take a look at it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, so my chicken's going in, and I'm setting a timer. Hey, Google, set a timer for 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
3 minutes and 30 seconds. Starting now.
I don't know if that started anyone else's timer, but okay. So We're done with our sauces. Our chicken's in the oven. We're now going to start. Let's see. Let's do our noodles. Let's talk about noodles now. So I know we all might have different kinds of noodles. So I want to find out what everybody has. Does everyone have this kind of noodle? It's a fresh. It's called it's a very thin rice noodle. Okay, so I see Zoe. Zoe, what is that, medium or thin?
It's medium.
It's medium. Okay, so you're gonna use, and yours is, everyone, it looks like oh wow, a lot of you have the same kind. Perfect. Oh, Maddie, yours are really thin, right, Maddie? Like super thin? Okay. Oh, and Taryn and Coda, you're using Fintel. You're using bean thread. Okay. All right. So all of you have hot water, right? Cool. Okay. Go ahead. If your water has already come to a boil, turn your heat off. If your water has come to a boil, everyone turn your heat off. I think I'm the only one that has this kind of noodle, right? Is that right? Anyone else have these fresh rice noodles? Oh, Shmoo. Oh, Grace. Okay, you and I. Grace, this instruction is just for you and me. We're gonna put ours in for 8 seconds. Oh, same with Sophia. Sophia, you and Shmoo and Ella. I think Ella, yours looks like kind of fresh too, right? Okay, for those of you who have fresh rice noodles, not yours, John. Yours looks dry. Sonia, yours looks dry too. Talia, what do you have? Talia, can I see yours? Oh, yours is dry too. And Jane, yours is dry, right? Yours is dry? Okay. Grace, yours is dry too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And pretty thin.
Okay. The only people who should be listening to this instruction now are the people who have fresh rice noodles. So me and Ella and Shmoo, put yours in to your hot water that's off for 8 seconds. 8 seconds only. So fast. Okay? Like I want you to put your pot by the sink. I want your pot by the sink. Get your tongs ready. Okay, because the fresh noodles cook very, very, very quickly. And the worst thing in the world is overcooked noodles. And our timer is about to go off. So let's see, get your colander ready in your sink. Okay, this is for fresh rice noodle people only. Okay, colander in the sink. You have your boiling water. Ignore the timer that's about to go off. Okay. It's okay. So let's put it on the cutting board, Clara. Okay, so you're gonna put your fresh rice noodle in, count to 5, stop, count to 5, and then immediately pour it into the sink and rinse cold water over it. This is only for fresh noodle people. So I'm putting in, you see here, I'm just putting it in very quickly. And I'm going to just let it sit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm putting this immediately into my colander. All of it goes in the colander. And I'm gonna turn my cold water on and start rinsing it so it stops the cooking right away. Okay. Everybody else? Now, if you're rinsing your rice noodles, just rinse it all with cold water. Use your hands to kind of make sure all the hot water hits every strand of noodle, and just let it drain. Okay. Yes.
What should we do with the flipping?
Okay, so now we're gonna check on our chicken. So the rest of the noodle people, hold on a second. If you have dry noodle, just a second. We're gonna check our chicken now. I'm just gonna check it and see if it needs to be flipped. So let's see here. What do you look like? Oh yeah. So it's kind of browning. You can see here, my chicken's kind of browning on one side. I think it could use another couple minutes. I'm gonna turn it over so that the part that was inside the oven is now facing the outside. I'm just flipping, where am I? Flipping it like this, so that I'm just turning it so that the opposite side is facing out. So I'm gonna put the oven, I'm gonna put it back in. I did not flip my chicken yet. I'm gonna set a timer for 2 more minutes. Hey Google, set a timer for 2 minutes. And now,
2 minutes, and we're starting now.
For those of you who have the other kind of dry noodles, let's put your dry noodles into your hot water. It should not be on the stove. It should be just sitting out. Put it into your hot water and set a timer for 4 to 6 minutes. Those of you with thick noodles, like thicker, wider noodles, will need about maybe 6 minutes. Those of you with thin noodles will only need 4 minutes, roughly. But we'll have you test it.
No, I don't want that.
Someone called Mama. Oh, sorry, I'll be back. Somebody called my phone, so my camera just went off, but I'm still here. There we go. Okay. Any questions about noodles?
Lynna?
Yeah.
This kind instead of the super thin kind.
Okay, super thin. Go ahead and put it into your hot water, and then take a pair of tongs or chopsticks and make sure you kind of loosen them up.
Hey, Lynna, what she's asking is we have thicker noodles as well. Should we use those instead of the really thin bean thread?
Oh, yeah. Wait, what kind do you have instead? Yeah, use that. Use that. Use that. Don't use the bean thread if you can. Use the rice noodle.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Shmoo
for
and...
the dry noodles in a box,
how what?
For the dry noodles in a box, do we want to cook them to, it says cook 2 to 4 minutes. Do we want them on the less cooked side or the more cooked side for this?
What kind in a box? Can I see? Just put it in the hot water and let it soak for about, let's do 3 minutes. Let's put it in the middle. Hot water for 3 minutes. Just let it soak for 3 minutes. Stop. Okay, my chicken timer just went off again. Meefin. Yeah, go ahead and just put it in the hot water for about 3 minutes. And make sure, everybody, that you stir your noodles once you put it into the hot water. Make sure you're stirring your noodles so that it kind of loosens up and all of it's immersed. Okay, I'm taking my chicken out of the oven. I'm gonna flip my chicken. So it should have a little bit of char mark on it. You can see, let's see, where am I? Yeah, you have a little bit of char on it. You see here? So I'm gonna flip this now to the other side. So, chicken thigh cooks pretty quickly because it's pretty thin. And make sure, again, it's in a single layer. You can see the other side looks still really, really pink. It's still not cooked all the way, so I'm just flipping it. And let's put it in the oven for another 4 minutes. All right. So my chicken has been flipped. I'm putting it back in the oven for 4 minutes. Hey Google, set a timer for 4 minutes.
4 minutes, starting now.
All right. How's everyone doing? So don't forget to set a timer for your noodles. You're gonna just let it soak for about 4 minutes, 4 to 6 minutes, depending on the thickness of your noodles. All right. And again, make sure you're loosening up your noodles so that they all get to touch the water. Okay, so now I'm gonna make sure everyone's noodles are all caught up. I wanna make sure your noodles are prepped before I keep going. So I'll just wait. If your noodles are ready, give me a thumbs up. Okay, Mayadi, Talia. Okay, are your noodles done, Talia? Yeah, did you taste it? Is it the right texture?
Yeah, I tasted it.
Okay, and did you rinse it under cold water?
Oh, no.
Okay, rinse it under cold water.
Okay.
Just so make sure you stop the cooking.
Lynna?
Yeah?
Ours is still a little hard.
Okay, then keep it in the water. Devra and Reina, how are your noodles? I saw you testing earlier. They're about there? Okay. Yeah, if it's still not quite there yet, make sure you let it sit in the hot water for a little longer. And then as soon as your noodles are to the consistency you want, then you rinse it under cold water in a colander and let it drain in the sink. Cameron, how are you? Are your noodles there?
No, our noodles, we have 20 seconds left.
Okay. Make sure you stir it around. And then once you've tested the noodle, make sure you rinse it under cold water. Natalie, are you ready to start chopping vegetables? That's our next step. That's our final step. We're almost there. How are your noodles, Shmoo? Is it done? Yeah, you and I are done.
Our tofu got a little burnt.
Oh, okay. Did you flip it?
Yeah, this is the other side.
Okay. Yeah, everyone's oven's a little different. Burnt is okay. How about the chicken? Is it ready? My timer is saying it needs another minute, but your chicken might be ready depending on how close it was to the broiler. So if you think it might be ready, oh, your parchment. Yes, parchment paper does sometimes catch on fire. Sorry about that, Tegan. Be careful. Okay. We're about to prep vegetables in about a minute. So I'm just gonna wait for my chicken. I'm gonna pull my chicken out of the oven in about 30 seconds. So everyone keep watch on your chicken or your tofu. I see a lot of moving around in the kitchen. I know it's just kind of a marathon today, but you're all doing great. Stop. All right. So I'm going to pull my chicken out of the oven. Yeah, looks like it's about done. This is what mine looks like. It's a little bit charred around the edges. I'm going to turn my broiler off. I'm just going to let that cool. I have to say, this is a recipe that I would say is like medium difficult because there's so many steps involved and so many ingredients. But you guys are all doing great. And we're almost done. We're on our very last step, which is cutting vegetables. So for those of you who are, your noodles should be about done. Everyone's noodles done and rinsed under cold water and draining in a colander. Okay, Alice?
Probably about one more minute for us, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, mine are still really hard.
Okay. Really hard or?
Kind of harder than al dente.
Okay, yeah, let it keep sitting in the water.
Okay.
Yeah. How are your noodles, Sophia? You and I had fresh noodles. How are your noodles? They done?
Good. Yeah, they're done.
Okay, good. And you rinsed them under cold water?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Lynna?
Yeah?
We still have like 13 limes left.
Uh-huh.
So should we like just keep them and use them for different times?
Yeah.
Well, what you can do, we'll slice up some and you can serve it at the table. Okay. And squeeze it over your noodles. You can cut some into wedges later.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, uh-huh. Okay, everybody, we're going to get started on cutting up our vegetables, which is our last step. So this is easy. I'm gonna have you take like I'm gonna put all my cut up vegetables in this kind of medium-sized mixing bowl, just to make it easier. So I'm gonna cut up cucumber first. So I'm using Persian cucumber. You can also use English cucumber. I like Persian and English cucumber because you can eat the skin. The skin's really thin. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting them 2 at a time. I'm gonna cut off the ends off of each side, like that. I'm gonna line them up and cut the ends. And then I'm going to just slice them in half lengthwise, up long ways, like that. And I'm just gonna cut these into half moons, super easy. So you can cut them 2 at a time or 4 at a time. I'm just gonna cut mine into thin half moons. They're pretty thin. They're maybe like, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch thick, like this. Just like that. If you're using English cucumber, same. You might want to cut yours, about 1/8 of an inch. Okay. I'm going to put all this into my bowl here. So go ahead and cut your cucumbers into half moons. All right. Okay. I have one more cucumber I'm going to cut because I'm doubling my recipe. So I'm going to demonstrate it again. Cut them in half lengthwise, and then just cut these into half moons. For those of you, your chicken should be cooling, your tofu should be cooling. Don't forget to turn off your broiler. Do not forget to turn off your oven. And now I'm gonna cut up my carrots. Okay, I'm gonna cut the ends off like that. Cut the ends off of both sides. Okay, so I'm gonna teach you a way to julienne carrots. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this kind of into ovals. So I'm gonna cut these along the bias like this. This is called cutting along the bias. I'm cutting these into like long ovals like this. You see what I'm doing here? So I cut these just like that into ovals. Okay, be very careful when you cut carrots. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line them up roughly. I'm just gonna cut up and make thin little cuts up and down. So I'm gonna just cut like little matchsticks. They're little sticks out of these, just like that. Okay, like little matchsticks. You can kind of line them up and stack them up. So what I'm left with are these short little matchsticks like this. You see that? These little strips? This is called a julienne cut. Like that. And you can add these to your cucumbers also, just like that. So I'll demonstrate it again with the second carrot. So once again, I'm taking my carrot and I'm cutting it on the bias into ovals. So kind of slanted. You can see there are little ovals coming out like that. See? And these are about 1/8 of an inch thick also. Long ovals. Make sure your fingers are out of the way. You can see I have these long oblong shapes here. And then I'm just gonna line them up and then cut them into very thin strips. Little julienne strips. They don't have to be perfect. Make sure your fingers are out of the way. You can go back through, and if you notice any that are thicker, you can cut them a little thinner. And then you have a little stack of julienne carrots. Home stretch, everybody. We're almost there. Okay. So carrots and cucumbers go into one bowl all together. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, do you remember that dipping sauce we made together? Do you remember the dipping sauce that had the brown sugar and the fish sauce and the lime juice and the chilies and the garlic? I'm going to spoon a couple tablespoons over these vegetables. Okay, I'm just spooning a couple tablespoons of the dipping sauce over the vegetables. Just a little bit, just to flavor a little bit. I'm just going to mix in the dipping sauce into the carrots and the cucumbers. And this flavors these vegetables a little bit. If you're worried about anyone not wanting this sauce over the vegetables, you can omit this step. Okay, but this kind of helps flavor all the vegetables a little bit. Okay. If you are using green onions, I'll show you how to cut that next. All right. Okay, so the last thing we're gonna slice, everybody, is our green onions. So I'm just cutting the stems off, the root part off. And I'm gonna I'm gonna stack these up and I'm gonna slice them on the bias. So I'm gonna slice them slanted like I did before with the carrots. I'm just gonna cut them just sideways, just like into long ovals, like I did with the carrots, but very, very, very thinly as you can. Okay, so you have these long, pretty green onion strips. Well, not really strips, but you're just cutting them diagonally, slanted. This is called cutting along the bias. Right. So I'm going to put the green onion into a bowl, serve it on the side, like this. And here we are, everybody. We're almost there. We're going to start assembling everything. So if you have bean sprouts that you have washed and draining, go ahead and grab those. I have a platter here of fresh herbs that people can dress themselves. I have some Thai basil here. I have some fresh mint from my friend Melissa's garden, who taught us last week. Melissa Lee, who taught us our harissa chicken. These are mint. This is mint from her garden. And I'm going to add a mound of bean sprouts right here, just to kind of round out this plate. So anyone who wants to add these additional ingredients into their salads can do that.
Lena, sorry, it's Lisa. Did you keep the green onions separate? I just put
it into a separate bowl.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, if you have leftover limes, go ahead and take some limes and just cut these into wedges and just scatter these onto the plate too. So you see I have some limes here. I have my mint, my Thai basil. I didn't include cilantro because I don't eat cilantro. I should have. I know Ella loves cilantro.
Lena,
Claire loves cilantro. Yes?
Is the chicken just supposed to be, it's good. Is the chicken just supposed to be charred at this point, or is it supposed to be done?
It should be done. Is your chicken out?
Oh, it was done, but I'm sure it's not cooked all the way through.
You don't think it's cooked all the way through?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
are you using thigh?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
They're pretty thick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, if you want to put yours in a little longer, definitely do that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I thought we were going to do something else with it. Okay.
We're just going to chop it up in a second. I'm going to show you how to assemble a bowl. So I know you have like an array of dishes right now in front of you, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to assemble a bowl of this rice noodle bowl. And you can either, you know, plate these yourself in the kitchen, or you can have people do it at the table. But here's what I'm going to do. I'll show you really quick. Okay, so I have some empty bowls here. You're going to use your hands. Make sure your hands are clean. Again, they probably are because you've been cooking. And my noodles are here. Okay, so I have this array of ingredients. Okay. Let's see. Let me show you. And if your chicken is cooled, you can go ahead and put some chicken onto your cutting board. So I'm going to add, let's see, a piece of chicken here. And I'll show you. Okay, so I'll make sure everyone's ready. I have a piece of chicken on my cutting board that's been cut. Feel free to taste it. Taste it and tell me what you think. Mine tastes really lemongrassy. It's good. Okay. So I'm just going to take this chicken thigh. I'm going to cut it into bite-sized pieces. So I cut it in half, and then you just cut it into bite-sized. It can be very rough. It doesn't have to be super small. I'm going to take a bowl, an empty bowl that I'm going to serve to my family. I'm going to wet my hands. I'm wetting my hands under water. And I'm just going to kind of use my hands with my wet hands. It's easier to handle these noodles if they're wet, if your hands are wet. I'm just going to kind of loosen it up a little bit. It's like a big mound of hair. Claire's horrified that I use that analogy, but I'm going to wet my hands, and I'm going to pull a handful of these noodles out, okay? So just like a serving of them. So I'm going to say like a mound, like a handful like this. So I have a mound of these noodles in my hand. I'm going to put them into the bowl. Okay, I'm going to break them up a little bit more. Okay. And then now I'm going to take some of my dipping sauce, this dipping sauce here. Okay, the garlic, lime juice, fish sauce mixture with the spiciness and the brown sugar. I'm just going to stir it again to make sure all the sugar from the bottom is dissolved. I'm going to spoon a tablespoon of this over my rice noodles. Okay, like that. And then I'm going to put some of the cucumber and carrots over it. Maybe in like a, you can scatter it all over, or you can put it in a quadrant. Okay. Then I'm going to put some mung beans here, like that. There's bean sprouts, and some mint, and some basil. And if you have cilantro, you can use that too. Okay. And then I'm going to take some green onion and sprinkle some in a quadrant here. And I'm going to add the chicken. I'm just going to put the chicken in a corner, or your tofu that has been cut in bite size. And finally,
eat to taste things, not to eat all the ingredients.
And finally, I'm going to take peanut sauce and spoon this over the top. Just, you can put it in the middle, or you can drizzle it all over like that. I'm just going to put some in the middle here, like that. Let me put some green onion on top. And this is my bowl. If you want, you can squeeze some lime over it, like a squeeze of lime. Okay, and have we forgotten anything else? I think that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Lynna.
Bye. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Lynna.
Good work, everybody.
Lynna.
Thank you,
Great
Lynna.
work.
Bye.
Great
This is
work.
delicious.
Oh, I hope it turns out. Bye, Alice.
Bye.
Bye.